everyone, my name's Jessie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am talking about my most anticipated book releases for next year, 2021. I have a lot to go through today, so I'm going to try to break it up by age range and genre. So starting with adult fantasy and working our way all the way to young adult fantasy for next year. Because I have a lot of books to talk about, I'm just going to give really short little summaries of each one, but I will link all of them down below if you want to check more information out on Goodreads for any of these books and want to add them to your own TBR. Before we get started though, I really quickly want to shout out Marie's Crafting. She has the most amazing shop online where you can buy handmade bookmarks, stickers, quote cards, anything you need bookish in your life. It is all there on Marie's site. She does such a fantastic job with her bookmarks. She was able to send me her new winter collection bookmarks, and I just have to show you guys how cute they are because this might be my favorite collection of hers yet. So first of all of her bookmarks are double-sided, so each side is unique, and they all come with these ribbons attached to the top. So she has different sizes, but all of her standard sizes have these ribbons, which makes it really easy to see where you're at in your book with these sticking out of them. We have one with little woodland creatures like deer and foxes. This one says, "When snow falls, nature listens." This one I love, which has the little winter homes with some holly on the back. This one says Holly Jolly on it with a little deer. How cute! And then has the little leaves on the back. This one with the little ornaments is so cute. I love the colors. And then finally, I love this one and the colors. It has little mittens and stockings. How cute! And then the beautiful red plaid on the back. So all of these are available now on her website. I'm gonna link it down below. And if you want to make a purchase, I do have a discount code for you all to use. It is just Jessie15 for 15% off of your order. So I will link all of that information down below if you want to check out her shop and help support her. I think she does the most fantastic job with her bookmarks. All right, so starting with some adult fantasy releases for next year that I am most excited for. I have to say, the one that sounds so fantastic to me that is coming out next March is called The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This is the first book in a new series called Magic of the Lost. And it says, Terrain is a soldier stolen as a child and raised to kill and die for her empire. Her only loyalty is to her fellow conscripts, but now her company has been sent back to her homeland to stop a rebellion, and the ties of blood may be stronger than she thought. And then it also follows another perspective, Luca, who needs a turncoat, someone desperate enough to tiptoe the bayonet's edge between treason and orders, someone who can sway the rebels towards peace, while Luca focuses on what really matters, getting her uncle off her throne. Through assassinations and massacres in bedrooms and war rooms, Terrain and Luca will haggle over the price of a nation, but some things aren't for sale. I think this sounds fantastic. I love that cover. I can't wait to check this out. Another one on my radar is The Bone Maker by Sara Beth Durst. So Sara Beth Durst came out with the Queen of Blood series, that Queen of Renthia, I think it's called, series that I still really would like to read soon. But The Bone Maker is actually a new standalone fantasy novel, which we love a good standalone because I have so many series that I'm in the middle of. I don't need to start more series, but I continue to anyway. It says this is a standalone epic fantasy set in a brand new world of towering mountains and sparkling cities in which a band of aging warriors have a second chance to defeat dark magic and avenge a haunting loss. The thing that sounds the coolest in this synopsis to me is that there's this corrupt magician called the Bone Maker who created an inhuman army using animal bones. That sounds so cool. So I definitely want to check this out. I think it sounds great, and it comes out in March as well. The next one I have on this list is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, the same author who wrote The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I haven't read yet, but I feel like I'm going to love that book. I haven't seen anyone say anything negative about that book. Apparently it is just the most heartwarming, most adorable book ever with the cutest characters, and this one sounds like it's kind of in the same vein as House in the Cerulean Sea, so I just love this whole concept of just very cute, happy fantasy books. It says it is a contemporary fantasy with TJ Klune's signature quirk and charm about a ghost who refuses to cross over and the ferryman who falls in love with him. How cute. So I can't wait to read that one too. I can't wait to read all of the TJ Klune because it sounds like he just writes the most adorable stories. So that one also comes out in March. The next one I have is Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. So this is a new author, I believe, and it says it is an epic fantasy featuring warrior priestesses and fickle gods at war. What sounds so cool about this one is it has like mythology elements to it. So it says that it follows this character named Hessa, who is a warrior priestess of the goddess of war, and she has the power to turn an enemy's bones to dust with a scream. Again, just that sounds really cool. So again, another one that I would love to check out, and this one comes out in January. So right around the corner. I'm very excited. And the next one I have is Son of the Storm, which is the first book in this new series called The Nameless Republic by Suyi, Davies, Okungbowa. So this says it is about a young scholar whose ambitions threaten to reshape an empire determined to retain its might in this epic tale of violent conquest, buried histories, and forbidden magic. I know this same author wrote another book called David Mogo God Hunter, and that was said to be like the Nigerian version of Dresden Files. So that just sounded really cool and put this author on my radar. And this new fantasy sounds so cool. It says that it has a character who is a clever but disillusioned scholar who longs for a life beyond the rigid family and political obligations expected of the city's elite. And then it also has another character named Li Long, a skin-changing warrior who shows up wounded in his barn. He's from the Nameless Islands, which according to Bassa lore don't exist, and neither should the mythical magic of Ybor she wields. This just sounds so cool. So I'm very excited for this. I think it sounds excellent. I love the cover. And this one comes out in May. The next book I have is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, which is the first book in a new series called The Radiant Emperor. And this sounds more like a historical fiction fantasy. It says it's kind of Mulan meets The Song of Achilles. I really like the Mulan trope of a girl dressing up as a man. It says in a famine-stricken village on a dusty yellow plain, two children are given two fates, a boy, greatness, a girl, nothingness. It says that the girl is going to use her brother's identity to enter a monastery as a young male novice. And it just says it's a bold reimagining of the rise of the founding emperor of the Ming dynasty. So this just sounds really cool. After reading The Poppy War, I really like these historical fiction fantasy stories that kind of take a twist on a real life historical event. So I'm really excited to check this out. I think it sounds excellent. And this one comes out in July. The next one I have is Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. So Rivers Solomon also wrote The Deep, which is another book I would really love to read. But this is actually a full-length novel, while The Deep, I believe, was just a novella. So it says it's about Vern, who is 7 months pregnant and desperate to escape the strict religious compound where she was raised. She flees for the shelter of the woods, and there she gives birth to twins and plans to raise them far from the influence of the outside world. But she is a hunted woman, forced to fight back against the community that refuses to let her go. When doing this, it sounds like she kind of manifests these powers, change her body. Rivers Solomon's Sorrowland is a genre-bending work of gothic fiction. Here, monsters aren't just individuals, but entire nations. I think this sounds great. I can't wait to check it out. Rivers Solomon is definitely an author I would love to read more from next year. So definitely interested in this one, and it comes out in May. The next one I have is called The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This is the new book in her Burning Kingdoms series. She also wrote The Empire of the Sand, which I've just heard a little bit about. This one sounds really good. It says it is a new trilogy set in a world inspired by the history and epics of India, in which a captive princess and a maidservant in possession of forbidden magic become unlikely allies on a dark journey to save their empire from the princess's traitor brother. Very cool. Can't wait to check it out. This one comes out in June. All right, so now moving on to some adult sci-fi that I have on my radar that sounds really cool. The first is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor. So she also wrote the Binti trilogy, which I actually just got Binti, and I'm so excited to read it. I've heard fantastic things about that series of novellas. It sounds like this is a new novella about a girl named Fatima who forgot her name and death paid her a visit. From here on, she would be known as Sankofa, a name that meant nothing to anyone but her, the only tie to her family and her past. Her touch is death, and with a glance a town can fall. And she walks, alone except for her fox companion, searching for the object that came from the sky and gave itself to her when the meteors fell and when she was yet unchanged, searching for answers. But is there a greater purpose for Sankofa now that death is her constant companion? So this sounds fantastic. I've really been wanting to check out Nnedi Okorafor in general, so I can't wait to get to this, and it comes out in January, so right around the corner. The next book I have is the second book in the Texkalon series. I think it's just a duology. It's a Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martine. I read A Memory Called Empire this year, and I really enjoyed that book. It was very dense, a little confusing, but once I got into it, I was very into it. I really liked all of the political maneuverings in it, and I really liked the world building that was done, so I'm very excited to continue on in the series. The first book follows this woman who is assigned to be the ambassador to this space station, and her predecessor was actually mysteriously murdered, and she's kind of trying to figure out who murdered him and why. There's also this technology in this world where you can implant someone's consciousness into your own brain and essentially have them as like a second voice in your head. It was so cool. It was so cool to explore. So I really like the first book. I can't wait to read the second one, and it comes out in March. The next book I have is A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. I read the Themis Files trilogy this year. I loved it. The third book, not so much, but I loved the first two books so much. Because I love the Themis Files trilogy, I will pick up anything Sylvain Neuvel writes. So it sounds like this is his new book that says it is reminiscent of Blake Crouch and Andy Weir. It's blending a fast-moving, darkly satirical look at the 1940s rocketry with an exploration of the amorality of progress and the nature of violence. I'm fascinated. Honestly, I just added this based off of author name. There are some auto-buy authors for me. This is one of them, and this comes out in March. Can't wait to check it out. The next one I have is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Again, another auto-buy author for me. I've read The Martian, I've read Artemis. I really enjoyed both. The Martian is one of my favorite books of all time, so I will read anything Andy Weir writes. It sounds like this is his new novel, and it says it's about a lone astronaut who must save the Earth from disaster. Again, this is based off of author name. I don't know too much about it. I don't really want to know that much about it. I like going into my books blind in general, especially books where I just know I like that author a lot. So I'm excited for this regardless, and it comes out in May. And then lastly, for the adult sci-fi, there is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. So I'm not gonna lie, I probably won't get to this next year because I really want to read Becky Chambers' other series, starting with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I've heard that's excellent. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I would really like to. So I know Becky Chambers is an author I really want to check out. And I just wanted to shout out that she had a new novel coming out. This is the first book in her new series, Monk and Robot. It says it's been centuries since the robots of Earth gained self-awareness and laid down their tools. Centuries since they wandered en masse into the wilderness, never to be seen again. Centuries since they faded into myth and urban legend. One day, the life of a tea monk is upended by the arrival of a robot, there to honor the old promise of checking in. The robot cannot go back until the question of what do people need is answered. This sounds great. I can't wait to eventually get around to it whenever I get around to reading Becky Chambers. It comes out in July. All right, now let's move on to the YA books that I have on this list. There is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo, the second book in the King of Scars duology. I read King of Scars earlier this year. I loved it. I loved being back in the Grishaverse. The cliffhanger at the end had me shook. Oh my god. I was like, I need the next book now. So I know I'm gonna love this. I'm so excited. And if you don't know anything about King of Scars, it follows Nikolai from the original Grisha trilogy and kind of his story after the events of the original Grisha trilogy. It's fantastic. I loved it. I can't wait for this one. And it comes out in March. I also have the Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. So this sounds, first of all, the cover is so fantastic. Oh my god, I've never seen a more beautiful cover. It says it is a YA thriller with a little bit of fantastical elements in it about a native teen who must root out the corruption in her community. It says as a biracial, unenrolled tribal member and the product of a scandal, 18-year-old Donis Fontaine has never quite fit in, both in her hometown and on the nearby Ojibwe reservation. Donis dreams of studying medicine, but when her family is struck by tragedy, she puts her future on hold to care for her fragile mother. I think this sounds really good. I actually, the only YA thriller I've read was Sadie, and I really enjoyed that one. I'm excited to check this one out. I think it sounds really cool. And this one comes out on March 2nd. The next one I have is called The Infinity Court by Akemi Dawn Bowman. It says this one is more of a science fiction young adult book about 18-year-old Nami Miyamoto, who is certain her life is just beginning. She has a great family, just graduated high school, and is on her way to a party where her entire class is waiting for her, including, most importantly, the boy she's been in love with for years. The only problem, she's murdered before she gets there. Whoa. What a twist, my goodness. When Nami wakes up, she learns she is in a place called Infinity, where human consciousness goes when physical bodies die. I don't need to know more. I love stories kind of about like afterlife or limbo. Love that stuff. So this sounds fantastic. It comes out in April. I definitely am going to be checking this out. The next one I have is the sequel to A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. This is A Psalm of Storms and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown. I really liked A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. I thought it was a lot of fun. It essentially followed two different perspectives. One from a young man who had to kind of make a deal with this pretty evil force in exchange for his sister's life. And then you also followed the perspective of a princess who her mother died and she was trying to figure out a way to resurrect her mother. It was really good. I had a lot of fun with it, so I'm excited for the second book. I really liked the world building in it, and I hope it expands upon the magic system a little bit more. This one comes out in June. The next one I have is called Muse by Brittany Cavallero. It says it is American Royals meets The Winner's Curse in the first book of best-selling author Brittany Cavallero's new duology, set in an alternate history American monarchy where a girl grapples for control of her own life in the middle of a looming war. I love it. I love that premise. I love kind of like these alternate histories. Very cool. I haven't read American Royals or The Winner's Curse, so I don't really know what that comparison means, but I'm interested. Sign me up. It comes out in February. The next one I have was actually supposed to be released this year, and I was really looking forward to it, but it got pushed back to next year, and that is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. This This sounds so good. It is about 16-year-old Decca who lives in fear in anticipation of the blood ceremony that will determine whether she will become a member of her village. Already different from everyone else because of her unnatural intuition, Decca prays for red blood so she can feel like she finally belongs. But on the day of her ceremony, her blood runs gold, the color of impurity, and Decca knows she will face a consequence worse than death. Love it. I love this stuff. Sounds so good. It was getting so much hype before, and that hype kind of got pushed back, so I'm really excited for this to finally be coming out, and it comes out in February, so not too much longer of a wait. The next one I have is These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overi. It sounds like it is a Three Dark Crowns meets Wicked Saints retelling of The Firebird, a Russian folktale. It says twin heirs are born in Turin, and their fates are decided at a young age. One of them has to remain at court to learn the skills to become a future queen, and the other one is taken to train with their aunt, the mysterious Firebird, who ensures magic remains balanced in the realm. Before the training is complete, the ancient power blooms inside her, which can mean only one thing: the queen is dead and a new ruler must be crowned. As the princesses come to understand everything their roles entail, they'll discover who they can trust, who they can love, and who killed their mother. Very cool. This comes out in April. I'm excited. The next one I have is Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart. This is a Jamaican-inspired fantasy about two enemy witches who must enter into a deadly alliance to take down an enemy. It follows two perspectives, one from Iriah, who has spent her life in a cell, but every day brings her closer to freedom and vengeance, and Jasmine, who is the queen's daughter, but unlike her sister before her, she has no intention of dying to strengthen her mother's power. Sworn enemies, these two witches enter a precarious alliance to take down a mutual threat, but power is intoxicating, revenge is a bloody pursuit, and nothing is certain except the lengths they will go to win this game. Super cool. I love it. Comes out in April. Another one I have is Mr. Impossible by Maggie Seawater, which is the second book in the Dreamer trilogy. I read Call Down the Hawk, which is the story of Ronan after the events of the Raven Cycle. I love the Raven Cycle. Ronan is a fantastic character. Call Down the Hawk was a lot of fun to read, so I'm excited to see where this story goes. It comes out in May. Sign me up, can't wait. And the last one I have is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. This one is a fantasy retelling for fans of Uprooted and The Bear and the Nightingale. So I really loved The Bear and the Nightingale. I was so-so on Uprooted, it was fine, but this says it is a dark, sweeping debut fantasy novel about a young woman who must be sacrificed to the legendary Wolf of the Wood to save her kingdom. But not all legends are true, and the wolf isn't the only danger lurking in the Wilderwood. Love it. Sounds so good. I love these kinds of like wintry atmospheric reads, and this one comes out in June. There's a couple others that I'm not going to talk at length about, but I just want to quickly mention. Apparently Frederick Bachman is continuing the Beartown series, and the new book Those Who Run Towards Fire is coming out next year. I don't know if this is official or not, but anything in the Beartown series I'm going to read because it is one of my favorites. Beartown is fantastic. Please go read that book. It is so good. So if he continues with this series, I'm there for it. I'm definitely going to read it. The other one is Kristen Hanna's new book. I love Kristen Hanna. The Great Alone and The Nightingale are on my top 10 favorite books of all time, and she's coming out with a new book called The Four Winds, which I'm really excited for. I don't care what it's about. I will read it no matter what. It comes out in February, so I don't have to wait too long. So those are all of my most anticipated releases for next year. What are your most anticipated books that are coming out next year? Leave those comments down below. I would love to know. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!